Hello and welcome to Tater Talk, the podcast about Apopka. This summer, we are sitting down with local prominent community members to discuss their lives and works in our city. Today, we are sitting down with Mr. Terrell Hendrix. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you.
And today, we will be discussing the first cemetery in Apopka, known as the Old Church Cemetery. So, Mr. Hendrix, could you please tell us first your name, when and where you were born, and what is your family history in Apopka?
My name is Terrell Hendrix. I was born May 27, 1952, in High Point, Guilford County, North Carolina. Um, my grandparents came to Apopka 1946, as much as I can calculate using the materials here at uh, at the museum.
Okay.
My uncle Billy knew,
Mm-hmm.
who was a member of the class of Apopka High School 1950,
Mm.
was here as early as 1946, 45, 46, when he was in the eighth grade here at school. So that part of the family goes down.
Uh-huh.
But I was born in North Carolina, um, 1952. Around 1954, my parents separated, and my mother moved south to first into Orlando. We lived a year or so in Orlando, and then we moved with my grandparents at their home in Plymouth.
Oh, okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's the property that is right next door to Camp Weewa, if you're
Okay.
familiar with that area out
Yes.
there. My grandfather had gone into the nursery business,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of by accident, um, they lived out there, had a fair sized chunk of property, and my grandmother wanted him to build a small greenhouse so she could put
Mm.
her plants in uh, over the winter.
Okay.
And so he built this greenhouse, and then somebody talked to him about, well, you can grow these plants and sell them and all.
Uh-huh.
So that winter, Grandpa went into the nursery business, and Grandma's plants died.
Mm.
But he started a nursery business that later expanded. Two of his sons, George New and Earl New, both went into the nursery business. My uncle Earl also farmed for a while out on the muck farms out
Okay.
there, but
Uh-huh.
we lived out at Camp Weewa, or next to Camp Weewa.
Uh-huh.
I started school in 1958 at Dream Lake Elementary School, right down here
Mm-hmm.
on
Right.
Park Avenue,
Okay.
um, and went to there through first through sixth grades,
Mm-hmm.
all six grades. Seventh grade, it was what we called going across the street, because that's where Apopka Memorial Junior Senior High
Mm.
School was located, which is
Mm-hmm.
now Apopka Memorial Middle School.
Right.
And so went to the seventh grade over there. And in the summer between my seventh and eighth grade, my mother remarried, and
Mm-hmm.
we moved into a house um, in town.
Okay.
Big time move into Apopka.
And what street was that
That
on?
was on Orange Street. It's Orange Street
Okay.
between Lake Avenue and Central Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
In summer of 1965, a house I still own.
Oh, okay. And
And
still live at.
say again.
And still live at.
No, I don't live
Mm.
there anymore.
Okay.
I'm over in Lake Mary.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Oddly enough, I've been in the same house over there. Last month was 39 years in the same
Oh,
house.
wow.
But we came into town, into Apopka, for the eighth grade, and then I went 8 through 12
Mm-hmm.
while living there at Apopka Memorial High School. Graduated in the class
Okay.
of 1970,
Uh-huh.
along with Francine Boykin,
Mm.
who's
Right.
uh, very prominent here at the museum.
Yes.
Uh, and you know, odd jobs here and there. Uh, in 1973, got a job as a police officer in Altamont Springs. I worked as a police officer up until 2000 and what 9 2009, at which time I then went out to Seminole State College and worked as an instructor and program manager at the police academy out there. And finally, in May of 2022, retired for good.
Okay. Wonderful. So, can you tell us how long you have been involved with researching and documenting information on the old church cemetery here in Apopka?
Yes, the cemetery, the Edgewood Greenwood Cemetery,
Right.
the city-owned cemetery out there. I'm out there quite frequently because I have about 15 family members who are resting out there in the cemetery. And the old church cemetery, I guess for reasons of trying to keep the old structures safe, were always fenced off. I mean, big 8-foot chain link fence around it and gates with padlocks and all. But they did have a sign. It said, if you're interested in seeing the museum, contact City Hall, and they can arrange for you to come in. Well, one day I went down there and just drove past, and the chain link fence was gone. The gate was gone. There was a nice post and rail fence set up, and you had access into what was the old church cemetery. Well, let me go in here and look around and see. And it was very interesting to see some of the older stones in there, the monuments, a lot of names that I recognized, family names, but just, man, this is interesting. Let me look at this. And there is a plaque that the Historical Society has placed down there near the entrance to the old church cemetery. And it talks about the importance and the value of cemeteries, but there's one line on that plaque that just hit me, and that is, a cemetery is a museum of people.
Yes.
Because the people are the artifacts that are in the museum. They're monuments with their information on them. So I just slowly became interested in it. And one day was down there, and there was one grave just inside the entrance that had a little decorative wrought iron fence around it. And obviously it's been there for quite some time because it was severely rusted and rotted. But inside, there were leaves and sticks and twigs and all this. I thought, it's kind of sad that it's there. So I got a rake and raked out over it. And as I was raking, there was something hard underneath it. So I cleaned it all off, and it was what in the cemetery business is called a tablet, which is the flat stone that covers over a grave area.
Oh, okay.
And I cleaned all of that off, and come to find out it was the grave of a Reverend Earhart. And he had been there, I want to say he was placed there in like maybe the 1870s. So he'd been there almost 150 years. So I thought, man, it shouldn't be like that. It ought to be cleaned off. And then I started picking up downed tree limbs and the odd piece of trash and sweeping and raking. And the next thing you know, I was a part-time cemetery caretaker, trying to keep up with it.
So it was very much a cemetery in need of preservation. And
it was.
Okay. Now, who was the first person buried there, and what year was that?
Well, I've got some information here. I took some notes. And you have to understand that this is all recorded information. There are 107 recorded graves in the cemetery. But when you look at how it's laid out, there are blank spaces, empty spots, where it would seem logical that there could be someone in those spots. So, but the first recorded internment down there was a young fella, 9 years of age, Erastus L. Stewart.
Right.
And he was born in 1849 and he passed in 1858. So
Wow.
1858 was the first recorded internment there in the cemetery. And the name Stewart, I'm sure people that have been in Apopka for any amount of time are very familiar with that name.
Yes, one of the original foundational families of Apopka who owned land and agriculture. Now, what was Apopka like when the cemetery first was created?
It was obviously very different. We didn't have a 4-lane major highway running through it and an interstate just around the corner and such. But it was an agricultural town. It was a farming town. And here at the museum, one of the most prominent displays they have is a giant artist's rendition of a bird's eye view of the city. And if you look at that, you'll see that kind of downtown Apopka is not where it is now, but it's more over in the vicinity of where the cemetery is now. As a matter of fact, the Baptist church used to be over there.
Okay.
Before they relocated over onto Main Street. But there were, stores and houses and such as this. There was a train track that ran into town, and it ran along what is now Forest Avenue.
Okay.
And it ran north up, and it crossed what is now 441, right about where the pedestrian bridge crosses over. And it curved around behind over near 3rd Street, and there was a railroad turntable where they could put the engine drive up on it and then spin it around, and he could go back out the other direction. And the only thing that was left of it was the concrete ring. It was probably 35 feet in diameter, which all the mechanism was in there. I'm not sure if that's still there. I think they filled it in just as a safety hazard. But it's right there on 3rd Street, kind of behind where the McDonald's is. And it was down in there. So the railroad came up in there. There was a train depot, which now houses the Naughty Lobster restaurant.
Previously known as the Catfish Place.
Yeah, the Catfish Place. And then right across the street from it was another business building, which was the Standard Oil distributorship, which I think Mayor John Land was involved with. But that kind of was the transportation hub. But the downtown was a little bit farther north and east of what it is now. And then obviously as time goes on, we got the road through what is now Orange Street that runs all the way out into Plymouth and then finally runs into 441 out there. That used to be an entirely brick street. Much of it is asphalted over now, but when we moved into that house, 1965, Orange Street was brick all the way out to Plymouth.
Wow.
And it was part of what was known as the Old Dixie Highway.
Right.
And in one iteration or another, you could drive it from somewhere in South Florida all the way up into the New England area on this one road that wound its way up there. But it was like I said, a brick street that went up through there. Quite a few older houses still available in Apopka that were built very late 1800s, early 1900s. Apopka had probably one of the first agricultural things was orange groves, and a lot of citrus work around here. Later on, the vegetable gardening on a massive scale out in on what we refer to as the muck farms out around Lake Apopka, Zellwood, that area out there. It grew up. And as a matter of fact, the History Channel has a series on, it's called Food That Built America.
Mm-hmm.
And they did uh, an episode on orange juice concentrate. And in that
Mm-hmm.
episode, the town of Plymouth, Florida, actually got mentioned because they mentioned a large Minute Maid
Yep.
processing plant
Mm-hmm.
in Plymouth, Florida. But that was a large aspect of it. Then in the 40s and 50s, the foliage industry, which, as you
Yes.
know, Apopka
Mm-hmm.
is known as the indoor foliage capital of the world,
Yep.
and the nurseries started taking a larger place in
Right.
the business
Right.
of the city.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Old Church Cemetery, which church was that
That was the
connected with?
Baptist church,
Okay, and that was known as
the First
First
Baptist
Baptist
Church
of
of Apopka.
Apopka.
And they had, as I said, the church itself used to be out in that area.
Mm-hmm.
As I understand, it was destroyed by a tornado, and they rebuilt on I think it's Highland Avenue and 441, but not where the current Baptist church is. It was across
Mm.
Highland on the other corner, kind of
Okay.
like next to where the Pep Boys is.
Okay.
And that was a large wooden structure. But then the church
Mm-hmm.
grew. They needed a bigger facility. So they built across the street, and the old wooden church became home to the youth ministry.
Oh, okay.
And they operated there for a while. And I'm guessing time just caught up with the building,
Mm-hmm.
and it had to be demolished.
Right. And I was reading also that the Apopka schoolhouse, original
Was down
schoolhouse,
in that
was
area too,
next
because
to the
yeah,
cemetery.
yeah, because remember this was downtown that they had
Yes.
there. And in going through some of the information um, that was available to me online, I did discover that when was it here? In 1880,
Mm-hmm.
Christmas Eve, as a matter of fact, December 24th of 1880,
Uh-huh.
a gentleman by the name of Zelotes Mason, who is a prominent person in Apopka's history, he
Uh-huh.
sold to the Baptist Church 1.1 acres of land for
Right.
use to expand the cemetery,
Okay.
and for the princely sum of $33.35, 1.1 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And he sold that to them. And his wife, Miss Christiana Mason, she was a property holder as well, so she sold her interest in it for the amount of $1. So for about
Wow.
$34, the church got a little over an acre of land down in there. And to bring things a little closer, when you go down there right to the cemetery property,
Mm-hmm.
remember this was Zelotes Mason and Christiana Mason. Well, you have Mason Avenue right there
Oh,
that
yeah.
dead ends into the church,
Yep.
and the other end of Mason Avenue goes down to Christiana Avenue. So I
Okay.
think it's kind
Wow.
of logical to
Uh-huh.
think that those streets were named after them.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, never knew that. Now, being that this cemetery is the oldest in Apopka and dates back to times of both slavery and then Reconstruction and segregation, what was the racial dynamics of the cemetery and where was the known as Apopka Colored Cemetery located?
Well, several black cemeteries down in the south side of town. I
Mm-hmm.
guess probably the most prominent one, I think, is called the Florida Memorial Gardens. It's down off of Lake Avenue and 13th Street down
Mm-hmm.
in there. It's a rather large facility with quite a few graves down there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, records keeping being what it is, they're not too sure about some of the information down there, but there are two graves that are distinctly apart from all of the rest of the graves down there. And it appears to be that it's a husband and wife. And the possibility exists that they were actually a black couple who were buried
Uh-huh.
in the old church cemetery, but in a segregated area.
Yes. And our museum technician here, Justin Baker, has actually been doing more research into that
Hmm.
and found the names of the couple Jack Winters and Mary Winters,
Yes.
and they're the first known black landowners in Apopka as well. So it's a very interesting story that we're still learning more about, and it's an important example of exceptions to the sort of racial binary that existed throughout much of our history. Now, what other families are buried in the cemetery, and who are some of the most prominent figures
Well,
there?
if you go down through just kind of a roll call of people, and a lot of people will recognize these names either from knowing the people, or awful lot of people got memorialized by naming a street after them. But the Bradshaw family is in there, the Champneys, the
Mm,
Delks, Fudge, Lovell, Rawlerson, Stewart, as we mentioned, Urquhart, and Vick
wow.
are
Yep.
some of the more prominent Apopka names that have people who've been placed down there in the old church cemetery.
Mm-hmm. And also our former mayor, John H. Land.
He's not in the old
Oh,
church
he's not in the
cemetery.
old
No,
church
he's
cemetery.
he's in the
Oh,
new
okay.
cemetery, the one that's only been there 100 years
Oh,
or so.
okay.
But he's in the at the Edgewood Greenwood
Okay.
facility.
I
His
see.
family plot is there. He has
Okay.
several relatives
Okay.
located there. And let's see, I made some notes here so I can do. As we said, Erastus Stewart of that
Mm-hmm.
Stewart family, 9 years of age when he passed, was the first recorded burial, and the most recent uh, burial
Mm-hmm.
involves a lady with two names that people are familiar with, Ada Lovell Urquhart. And Ms. Urquhart was born in 1891, and
Oh,
she
wow.
she passed in 1992 at the age of 100,
Wow.
and she is the most recent internment in the old church
Okay.
cemetery. Nobody's there since 92.
Okay. And no one else will be buried there.
I don't
Or,
know. I
okay.
think if I could work a deal with the city, I might kind of like to be there. Um,
Uh-huh.
let's see, who else is down there? As we said, the name Fudge. If you're familiar with the Plymouth area, you have Fudge Road out there.
Okay.
A gentleman by the name of James Daniel Fudge is buried there.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Fudge was the first mayor of Apopka. Um,
Oh,
he
okay.
was he was born in 1830
Uh-huh.
and passed in 2007. I'm sorry, 1807, at the age of 76.
Mm-hmm.
He was 2 months short of his 77th birthday when he passed. As I
Okay.
said, he was the first mayor of Apopka when they were
Right.
elected. He was elected in 1882,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, um, mayors were elected for 2-year terms,
Oh, okay.
and he was mayor from 1882 to 19.
1884, would it
Let's
be?
see, 1882. Well, he was reelected several
Oh,
times,
I see.
so he made it quite a time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Mayor Fudge was a Confederate veteran from
Mm.
the Civil War,
Mm-hmm.
Company F of the Second Georgia Infantry, and
Okay.
also Andrew J. Lovell, another
Love.
Apopka
Uh-huh.
name, is there. He was born in 1856 and passed in 1941. And he served 2 separate terms of mayor. He was mayor for a couple of years, was out of
Okay.
office, and then
Uh-huh.
returned back in. So,
Right.
2 former mayors
Yeah.
are in the old church cemetery.
Yeah. And now, what is the presidential connection that the old church cemetery has? I was reading in the binder that someone associated with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln
That's
was
that's one of those
possibly.
things, you believe it or you don't.
Okay.
Um, and I'm drawing a blank right now on the man's name, but one of the assassins in the entire plot of Lincoln's assassination, because the plot was supposed to be somebody was going to kill Lincoln, Somebody was going to kill Vice President Johnson. Somebody was going to kill the Secretary of War, Mr. Seward. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I'm just drawing a complete blank on the man's name right now. But there is word that, of course, all the conspirators were arrested, convicted, and hanged. And the one fellow who was involved with it, at the time of his death, his parents lived out in the Oviedo area, Geneva,
Okay.
of Seminole County.
Mm-hmm.
And there was word that his remains had been relocated out to his parents' area. And then somebody says, no, he was buried in Apopka. But again, it depends on who you want to believe and which story comes up.
I see.
But there is that connection.
Okay. Possible evidence. Okay. Now, what is the benefit of preserving and researching older cemeteries such as this one?
Well, it's like the plaque says, the Historical Society plaque that's down there. Cemeteries are museums of people, and that's us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you study the people. I mean, you can go look at a museum with rocks and stuffed animals and old books and stuff, but it all connects back to people somehow. Somebody collected those rocks. Somebody wrote those books. Mm-hmm. Somebody made those artifacts. And it gives, it's an interesting place because, as I said, you can follow a timeline of people back through, from the beginning of a settlement all the way up to current days. And it's like so many other things. When it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
And now, thankfully, because of the technology we have, it's easier to record and retain the ephemera of things, paper, photographs, documents, things like that, through scanning and photographing and all this.
Right.
But somebody has to do it. Yeah. And it's not particularly difficult. But it can be very time consuming and labor intensive because it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland. You go down a rabbit hole and then this leads to this person, it leads to this person, leads to this person. And the next thing you know, you've been working on a project for 4 or 5 hours and you may not be very much closer to your destination, but you've come up with an awful lot of information that you came up with.
Right, which may be useful to someone in the future.
Oh yeah, because that's basically what museums are. They are for people in the future.
Yep.
I mean, you start the Smithsonian in Washington D.C. or the Museum of the Apopkans. It's for the future. When people did it back then, it's for the future, which is now. But now we people here in the present have to carry it on for the next generations that come along.
Yes. Now, how can visitors and residents learn more about the Apopka Old Church Cemetery?
Well, one of the things I did when I first got interested in the cemetery was I went through and I created a binder where I documented each of the 107 recorded graves that are there. And it's here at the museum. People can thumb through it. And basically it's a photograph of the particular monument for that individual, and whatever biographical information I could find that was relevant to their Apopka experience is in there. So you can kind of catch up on who these people were and how they came to be in Apopka. Not a lot of the people who are buried in the Old Church Cemetery were actually born in Apopka.
Right.
Most of them moved here. Now, sadly enough, there's quite a few graves down there of small children. There's probably more than a dozen graves down there of children who are less than 10 years old.
Right. It was a very difficult, rugged environment.
It was a hard life back then. I mean, Um, you know, fresh water uh, was a big luxury sometimes. So disease, accidents, that sort of stuff. It was a rough life,
Yeah.
and it's reflected
Right.
somewhat in the number of graves of the young children that are down there.
Exactly. And lastly, we like to ask our guests, what is your hope for the future of Apopka?
Wow.
And you can answer that however you'd like to take it.
Well, I have been gone from Apopka for quite some time, but like I said, my mother lived out here until she passed in 2004. I've always been interested in the Apopka school sports teams, and just the history of what goes on out here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of people may not realize that Apopka is the second largest city by population in Orange County, second only to Orlando.
Yes, it is.
I'm not sure that they will ever pass Orlando as the most populous one,
Right.
but I'm afraid that there are some folks in the city who would like to try.
Agreed.
And
Mm-hmm.
when I was coming out here for this interview, my daughter came with me, and I know she's tired of hearing it over and over again. But when I come through, I says, this is Highway 436. It's 6 lanes, um, not counting turn lanes and access.
Yeah.
It's a huge highway. Well, when I was growing up, it was a 2 lane road out through a bunch of orange groves,
Mm-hmm.
and this subdivision used to be an orange grove, and this shopping center used to be an orange grove, and and it's just it's so it has changed so much. Like I said, I for about eight 9 years, I lived in Plymouth next door to Camp Weewa out there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Camp Weewa, a couple of nurseries, and the muck farms. That's all that was out there.
Right.
And you drive through out there now, and it's apartments, it's condos, it's single family houses, it's industrial areas, it's businesses, it's beltways.
Yeah.
It's just it's growing. I don't think you can just say stop. Um, but it would be kind of nice to maybe slow down. One of the things that hurts me the most about Apopka now is, I guess, what you would consider the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
That so many of the old buildings are gone.
Right.
And I understand, well, if you're going to widen the road, you got to knock down a building to do that. But the old Apopka Hotel, the Edwards Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
a 4 story building at the corner of Central and Main Street, for years and years and years, it had the only elevator in the city was in that building. Next to it was the Apopka Theater, a movie
Mm-hmm.
house and a vaudeville house, which also served as City Hall.
Oh.
If you walked in the front door, you
Hmm.
looked at the concession stand for the movie theater, and
Uh-huh.
to the left was the mayor's office, and to the right was the city
Wow.
clerk's office. And the State Bank of Apopka building, the grandstands at Edwards Field, the Worthington building that used to house Henry's Meats, and before that, the Fern City Sundries,
Mm.
Rogers Hall at the Methodist Church. All these old buildings, I think, you know, what if the wrecking ball had not swung so quickly?
Yeah.
And some of those buildings were still around for us to enjoy and to reuse.
Mm-hmm.
But progress uh, is a formidable force, and uh, people have to have a place to live. People have to have a job to go to, and I don't think you can stop it. I don't know that it would be wise to stop it, but it all doesn't have to be in Apopka.
Right. And it can be more sustainable and smart
Exactly.
growth. Yes. Well, thank you for coming in today and sharing your research and binder with the museum. It's a very important work to do to preserve and spread awareness on one of our oldest cemetery here in Apopka. So I know I learned a lot, and I hope that our audience learned a lot as well. So thank you for coming
Okay.
in,
And
and
before we end, I would just like to
mm-hmm.
mention two people that have
Oh,
been
okay,
very helpful in this process.
sure,
And that would be Dr. Phyllis Olmstead and Mr. Britt Hayes.
yes,
They did an awful lot of research. Basically, they did the research for the binder. They had done it over years of study,
oh
and
wow,
I just kind of collected it together and put it in one
okay,
space.
I
But
see.
an awful lot of their effort went into this as well.
Okay, well, shout out to them as well, and thank you all for tuning in. Our next episode will be coming out next Saturday, and for the rest of the summer. So we hope to see you next time and have a good weekend. Thank you.